All right, today I want to talk about brand architecture and why your brand structure matters much more than your logo. And this is really the million-dollar question. This is the one that keeps founders up at night once they've hit real scale. So you've built a successful company, you're doing, I don't know, 10, 15, $20 million in top-line revenue. You've got traction, you've got reputation, you've got brand equity, and now it's time to launch something new. A new product line, a new service, maybe it's something totally different that you've never done before. And so here's the million-dollar question. Do you launch it under your existing brand, or do you create a completely new one? That decision isn't about your logo, and it's not about your color palette or your Instagram feed or your website or anything else. It's about architecture. And if you get it wrong, you don't just waste creative dollars, you waste positioning clarity, you confuse your customers, you dilute trust, and you wind up burning marketing spend trying to fix a structural mistake that never really had to happen in the first place. So today we're diving into the specifics behind brand architecture, the strategic framework that determines how all your brands, products, and services ultimately fit together. All right, we're gonna break down a couple of specific things. Number one, the 3 dominant models you have to choose from when making this choice. Number 2, real world examples from brands you know, Apple, Procter & Gamble, Marriott, ones that are easy to follow. Next, a 5-question decision-making framework to help you get through the process. And 4, a practical implementation roadmap to help you once you're through. If you're scaling with multiple offers, this is one of the most important strategic decisions you're ever gonna make. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so what is brand architecture? Let's just start with the fundamentals. Brand architecture is the organizational structure of your brand portfolio. What it does is define how your parent brand, your sub-brands, your product lines, and other offerings all relate to each other in the mind of the customer. Think of it a little bit like a family tree. Who's the parent? Who are the children? Who carries the name? Who stands on their own? Ultimately, brand architecture answers questions like, should our new product carry our existing brand name? Should this new service be positioned independently? How do we leverage brand equity we've already built? How do we protect the core brand if something happens? Now, there are 3 primary models most companies fall into. Number 1 is a branded house. Number 2 is a house of brands. And number 3 is a hybrid or endorsed brand model. Each model has advantages, each model has trade-offs. There's no one correct answer that universally everybody agrees on. The right architecture ultimately depends on your strategy, your budget, your risk tolerance, and your growth plan. All right, so let's start with model 1, the branded house. A branded house is exactly what it sounds like. One master brand at the top. Everything else lives under it. The parent brand is the hero, and every product reinforces the master brand. The classic example of this is, of course, Apple. When you buy an iPhone, you're actually buying Apple. When you buy a MacBook, you're actually buying Apple. When you buy AirPods or Apple Watches or Apple TVs, each time you're ultimately buying Apple. Every one of their products strengthens the master brand. And through that, the equity compounds. So why does this work? Branded houses create massive marketing efficiency. Every campaign builds one brand, and every success strengthens the umbrella. There's automatic trust transfer between any of the products. And when customers trust your core offering, they're much more likely to try your new ones. But there's a risk. The risk is concentration. If one product implodes publicly, the master brand absorbs the damage. There's also limited flexibility. If you're positioned as premium, it's really hard to introduce a budget line product or service without brand tension. And if you stretch into unrelated categories, it starts feeling weird. For many founders with $10 million to $25 million businesses, brand houses are sort of the default. But it's not always the right choice. And that brings us to model 2, the house of brands. So now we move to the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the house of brands. This is where the parent company owns multiple brands, but customers barely know the parent company even exists. The masterclass example, of course, Procter & Gamble. You've got Tide, Pampers, Gillette, Olay, Crest. By Tide, you're not actually thinking about P&G. Each of their brands has its own positioning. They've got their own voice, their own target audiences. Why this works? Extreme targeting. Each brand owns a specific niche without overlap. This is risk isolation. If one brand faces backlash, it doesn't necessarily damage the others. There's also pricing flexibility. You can have premium brands and value brands in the same portfolio quite easily. It's expensive, especially if you're building equity in multiple brands at the same time. There's also no automatic equity transfer. Success in any one brand does not necessarily help any of the others. For most mid-market founders, the house of brands approach really isn't practical unless you operate in completely unrelated categories, you have significant capital, you're acquiring brands that already have their own momentum, or you want total separation so that you can break off a P&L easily and sell it when it comes time to do so. And this is why private equity firms and conglomerates love this model, but it's not efficient for everybody. And that brings us to model 3, the hybrid or endorsed brand. This is where sub-brands have their own identity, but they're backed by a parent brand, and the gold standard here is Marriott. They've got Ritz-Carlton, Courtyard by Marriott, Residence Inn by Marriott, JW Marriott. Each brand serves a completely different customer segment: luxury, business travel, extended stay, upscale, but they all wind up benefiting from the Marriott endorsement. Consumers know the quality standard, they know the loyalty programs, they understand the operational consistency. That's brand leverage without brand dilution. So why does the hybrid model work? Ultimately, it comes down to flexibility. You can effectively target different segments without starting from zero. You get partial equity transfer, and the sub-brands benefit from the parent. You also get scalability. You can grow into adjacent categories. The issue here can be, of course, the cost. You're now managing multiple identities, and brand governance becomes critical. Now, the hybrid model does require a lot of discipline because you've got to be making those micro choices thoughtfully. But for many scaling $10 million companies that are expanding into adjacent categories, this is the sweet spot. So let's turn our attention to decision making. How can you make the right choice? Let's try to make this as practical as we can. Here are 5 questions to help you determine which architecture is best for you and your business. Question number 1, how related are your offerings? If they're highly related, you should be thinking about a branded house. If they're somewhat related, you should be thinking hybrid. And if they're unrelated, you really should be looking at house of brands. Question 2, what is your risk tolerance? If you've got a low tolerance, you should be looking at house of brands. If you're moderate, hybrid, and if you've got high confidence in the master brand, branded house is where you should land. Question 3, what's your budget? If you've got a limited budget, you should be taking a look at branded house. Moderate, you should be looking at hybrid, and large, you should be focusing on house of brands. Question 4, how do customers perceive your categories? If it's the same category, it's branded house. If it's adjacent categories, it's hybrid. And if it's completely different categories, it really should be house of brands. Number 5, what's your growth strategy? If you want to deepen dominance, branded house. If you want to expand adjacency, hybrid. And if you want to diversify broadly, it's probably house of brands. Now, there is no universal right answer, like I said before. But if you answer these 5 questions honestly, it gets clear pretty quickly. And here's a pro tip that most founders miss completely. Your architecture can actually evolve over time, but it's got to be intentional. Don't let it happen by accident. Next is our implementation roadmap. Step 1, audit your current state. List every brand, every product line, every service, and then ask yourself, is this intentional or did it just sort of happen this way? Number 2, define your strategic intent. Answer the 5 framework questions we talked about and choose your target architecture. Number 3, map the future state. Literally draw it out. Parent brand at the top, sub-brands beneath, product lines beneath that. Make the hierarchy clear and visible. Step 4, create governance rules. Define naming conventions, visual relationships, messaging hierarchy, and launch criteria for the new brands. This prevents huge chaos later. Step 5, align the organization. Your sales team's got to understand it, your marketing team's got to understand it, and your leadership team has got to defend it. Architecture fails quickly when governance fails. And step 6, execute and monitor. Be sure to track customer perception, watch for confusion, and be willing to refine as you go. So if you're scaling past 10 million and you're expanding your portfolio, don't just ask what should the logo look like, ask how should this entire system fit together moving forward? Because structure determines scale and architecture determines whether your brand compounds or it fractures. See you in the next one.